So, the aim of the meeting tonight is to share how and why we teach phonics at St Mary's, to explain to you what the phonics screening check is, and also to inform you when the phonics screening check will take place, and also when you will get the feedback from the phonics screening check. Let's let in a few more people in. So why do we teach phonics? Well, mainly because it's part of the national curriculum. This is all from the DFE here. I'm not going to read this all out to you. But basically, phonics helps your children to learn how to read, and it also helps them to learn how to write. And it's part of the national curriculum, and it comes into reading and it comes into writing. So the main thing is it develops your child's ability to read. Being able to read is obviously so important as they continue their journey at our school, because they need to be fluent readers so that they can access other subjects as well in the primary curriculum. I mean, even today in our maths lesson, they were having to read word problems. So if your child is struggling to read, they're going to struggle in other areas of the curriculum. It's a really key skill that we're very good here in early years. We use our phonics system, Floppy's Phonics, which I'm going to tell you about today, and we use that continually throughout year 1 and year 2. So this slide here just kind of shows you how it goes through all the different strands of learning. So we use Floppy's Phonics, which is what we call a synthetic phonics system, and that helps them with their reading, which of course also helps them with their writing, and it also helps them with their spelling and grammar. And the spelling and grammar is done, sometimes I do that as a starter at the beginning of a lesson. I might teach them different spelling rules, or I might teach them, like yesterday we were doing question marks. But of course, they need to have that phonetic understanding if I'm then asking them to write a simple question. And that's why the arrow then goes back, because if I'm asking them to use question marks, they're still going to have to be able to write the question. They're still going to have to be able to read it back. And to do that, they need to have that good understanding of the phonics. So they all really rely on each other and form that kind of web that lead them to being successful readers and successful writers. So this is the system that we use. It's called Floppy's Phonics. It's produced by somebody called Debbie Hepplethwaite, and you can go onto the website, which at the very end of this presentation, I've got 2 QR codes for you, which will link to the parents' site, so you can get some more information if you don't already have it. And I'm just going to go over a bit of the vocabulary for any of you who aren't kind of aware of what phonics is. So you'll often hear us use the word phoneme, and that's basically the sound. And what I'll often say to the children is put on your phoneme headphones, because you need to listen to the sound. And in this example that you can see on here, it's ch, and that's the sound that's been made. Now, the grapheme, I will say to the children, put on your grapheme goggles, because this is where you're looking at that sound. And it's basically that smallest representation of that sound in writing. So in this one, it's the letters C and H. Now, for this sound, it's 2 letters. So that's why it's called a digraph. Some might be a trigraph, so it would be like IGH for I as in night, or the DGE for J as in bridge. Again, we do teach the children that vocabulary, so they'll say, oh yeah, it's a digraph. So it's about them understanding that those 2 letters put together, but it still only has that one phoneme, that one sound, the ch. Now, as they go through the phonics system, of course, it becomes more complicated because there are alternative spellings and alternative sounds. So, for example, we have learned E as in eel, but they've also learned that you could make that E sound E as in eat. Or there's also what we call split digraphs, which we start to learn towards the end of year 1, where there's a sound in the middle. So that might be E as in compete, where it's been split with that t. Again, we teach all of this. You don't need to worry about that. However, you will see that in the reading records, I do put in a sticker each week that tells you the sound or sounds that we're learning, and ask you just to look out for those when you're reading with your child. We have a daily phonics lesson. We tend to do it in year 1 after lunch. And the daily phonics lesson is split into 2 sessions. So on day 1, we'll do session 1, where we'll introduce the sound using the flashcard that you can see here. And then we go onto the online system, where we look at different words that have that sound in. There's pictures from the books. There's little activities where you can see, if I can get my laser working on here, let's see. if you can see here where Floppy is at the bottom here. This is when I click on this, this opens other activities for the children to do. And we do that whole class on the carpet. And as we go through new sounds, these flashcards here get put into a box, and every day I go through every sound that they've learned. So it can be quite repetitive, but that's what we call the fidelity to the scheme. The scheme suggests that you do this daily, and they really do remember them. And as they get better, I don't show them the picture, because on the reverse side of these cards is just the digraph or the trigraph. It doesn't have a picture, so it really does rely on them then being able to say ch as in chick. And then on day 2, we do different activities where we might play bingo, or we might do a phoneme hunt and a grapheme hunt around the classroom. We've also got the orienteering now around school, which is linked to our phonics, which is great. And then after they've done a little activity, they then go into their activity book, which is where they first practice reading the new sounds in words, then they practice writing, and then they write a sentence. So even though we do daily writing lessons in English, they also, every other day, will be doing writing linked to their phonics in their Floppy's phonics books. And these are out. If ever you want to come and have a look at these, just let me know. I'm more than happy for you to come and see them. We also have this, which is called the mini alphabetic code. I'm just going to admit late come up. So this alphabetic code looks really complicated. It's not particularly child-friendly. However, with adult support, and you can download these from the website that I'm going to give you for free. They are a really useful tool. Certainly, as we introduce more and more sounds to the children, it's really helpful. So, for example, if they know that it makes, I'm trying to see an example on here that would show it. An E sound, so it's probably on the reverse of this one, but you'd have E as in eel, but actually E could also be spelt with the letter Y as E as in happy. And these charts show them that. So if you look here for the K as in key, they can also see the different ways that the K sound could be made. And it's just really useful for them for when they're spelling, because it's got all the alternatives there for them. Now, obviously, it still relies on the child knowing which one is going to go in the word. But it is really helpful because it's quite visual for them. Like they've already learned that S as in sun, that's the very first sound that they will learn in reception. But then later on, they also learn that you've got the double S, that's as in dress. It's not so clear on this one, but there's like a little line before the double S, and that's just an indicator that these sounds would normally come at the end of a word. So that's the alphabetic code. We have those in class out on the table. Whenever they're doing writing, they're there for the children to help them. Just to give you an example of how you might use that at home, or how I would use it in school, is if the child was saying, today the weather is rainy, and they had to try and write the word rainy independently, I would ask them to say the word really slowly and count the sounds with their fingers. So they'd go rainy, R-A-N-E. I'd say, look, there are 4 sounds in there. R as in rabbit, A as in aim, and they'd look on the alphabetic code to find that. And then N as in net. And then a lot of children might write the E as in eel at the end when they're spelling rainy. But actually, by using the alphabetic code, we can say, but look, it would probably be E as in happy because it's coming at the end of a word. And then they would say, oh yeah, that's rainy. Like I said, they need some adult support with that because they're not going to know which one it is out of all of these ways that you can make the E sound. But eventually, they will get to remember those spelling rules. So then hopefully the aim is that they will be able to spell rainy correctly by using our phonics system. I think there's a few people still trying to get in, so I'm just going to try and admit them quickly. Sorry about that. I'll go on to the next slide. So the phonics screening check, this is what the DFE say it is. It's a check designed to confirm whether pupils have learnt the phonic decoding to an appropriate standard. Now, it identifies pupils who need extra help to improve their decoding skills. It consists of 20 real words and 20 pseudo words that pupils read aloud. Now, this year, the check will be completed this academic year on the week beginning Monday, the 9th of June, and it will finish on Friday, the 13th of June. So within that week, I have to deliver the check and make sure that every child has read those 40 words. And you'll get the feedback about how they've done out of those 40 words in your end of year report. We will tell you they've read 35 words out of 40 or 37 words out of 40, on whether or not they've met the required standard. Now, the DFE are quite clever in that they don't tell us what the required standard is going to be until after the test has been done. However, for the last few years, and for as long as I can remember, the pass mark has been 32. So if your child can read 32 out of the 40 words last year, then they would be classed as passing the phonics screening check and meeting that required standard. Now, it's not a test. We don't tell the children it's a test at any point. It is called a phonics screening check. And when the children do the check, they will just come and read with me. And we do lots of practices throughout the year. So it's not something that's unusual. They won't suddenly think, oh, well, why am I going to speak, going to a room to read words with Mr. Waddington? It's something that we practice throughout the year and they'll be used to it. So I would ask that please don't tell your children that they're going to be tested because we don't want any pressure on the children. We want them to just think it's just a fun activity. They're coming to read with the teacher. So this is an example of what the check looks like. These are some examples of those pseudo words. We call them the alien words, and they have pictures on like this, so the children know that it's not a real word. I cannot sight read this. I'm going to have to sound it out using my phonics. So for example, this first one, and they're allowed to sound it out. They can go odd, thod. They don't have to sight read it straight away. However, if they do for odd and then say fad or fid, they wouldn't get that one right. They've got to say the word correctly. And that's really checking that they are using their phonics to read and that they've got that good phonetic understanding. You can see, obviously, they do get a little bit harder because you've got some digraphs in here like lort and then deebs. But again, we will teach them all the sounds that they will need to know. These phonics screening checks, they change the words every year, but they kind of follow a pattern. And I've got quite good at looking at the algorithm and working out what those words are going to be. We've not really ever had any surprises where they've suddenly put in a sound that we haven't taught. The phonics system that we use covers all the sounds because it is linked directly to the national curriculum. So there's no worries there. Then out of the 20 real words, they'll have words like this. And again, I really teach the children. I say, I know you think you might know the word, but make sure you're sounding it out. Because sometimes if they're trying to sight read it, they might look at this first one, chip, and they might just suddenly say, oh, it's chap. And they think they've got it right. And I have to take the first word that they say. So I will say to them, sound it out, ch, ip, chip. And we do that for the 20 real words. And like I've said, all I do, I'll sit in a room with them, show them the words. They're in a little booklet. I'll be discreetly ticking which ones they've got right and which ones they haven't. I don't tell them if they've got it wrong either. So again, I'll just be ticking them. I'll go, well done. That was great. Give them some dojos, and that's the end of the check. So it's non-threatening. There's no pressure put on them at all, and that they don't even know that they're sitting a check. They just think they're reading to the teacher. There are obviously some more trickier ones towards the end. So for example, this is an example of where we have one of those split digraphs. So this is the I as in ice. And if you look at this word, it's the f as in phone, I as in ice, and b. So they would read it as f, I, b, fibe. Now that's really quite hard because obviously it's not a real word. When it's the real words, it's a little bit easier because they might start to sound it out and then recognize, oh yeah, this is strike. When it's those nonsense words, it really does rely on them spotting that there is a split digraph in that word. Again, though, please don't worry as parents because that is something that we will teach in school. And when we get onto those split digraphs, I'll put that in their reading records. You'll be able to see that we're looking at split digraphs this week, and those reading books, hopefully, that we send home will have those in as well. So you'll be able to spot some of those when you're reading with your children at home. So your child will have lots of opportunities to practice this each term. Even, like I said, we're doing daily phonics anyway. Nearer the time, I start doing kind of like flash reading cards up on the screen with a lot of these alien words in there that they're probably going to see. And also we do mock phonics screening checks. So if I see, for example, I'm going to do the first one in about 2 weeks' time, and I'll probably expect them to read about 20 out of the 40 words at this point in the year. If there's any children that are not on target, I will give them some extra phonics support, or I'll ask one of the TAs to give some extra phonics support. But at the moment, from what I've seen, I think I've no major concerns. I think all of the class are doing really well with their reading and their phonics. And, I think we'll get really good results this year. So I don't think anybody needs to worry. But if once I've done one of these mock ones during our assessment week, if I think there's any children that might just be struggling, I'll let you know as parents, and we'll just put them into a little phonics intervention straight away. And last year that was really successful for those children that just received that extra support. The majority of them got to the required standard. Just to repeat again, though, I don't tell them that it's a check. They just sit with me, read the words, they're given plenty of support, praise, and encouragement. Obviously, I can't tell them the answers when it's the actual check, but throughout the year, I will really guide them. I will tell them if they've got it right or wrong, and I'll give them lots of support there to help them. Just put this on here. I'm really pleased. I know a lot of you have been doing lots of reading and really engaging well with the reading records, but we obviously do encourage you to read with your child as much at home, and just look at those sounds that we're currently learning that are on the stickers in the reading record. This slide here, I don't know, I'll just pop that to the side. So this has obviously got two links. If you can scan them now, or I will also put this recording on the website, so you'll be able to get them afterwards. But the first one is the Oxford Owl website. And there's lots of resources on there about the phonics screening check, but there's also lots of digital books on there that are linked directly to the books that we send home and that we use in school. And this information here just takes you to last year's phonics screening check. So the Department for Education put those resources on after we've done the test. And so as parents and teachers, you can go on there and you can download last year's check, and you can practice those as well at home. I think it's after Easter, I'll send home as well, like a sample check for you to be practicing reading with at home. Obviously, it's not going to be the same words that they'll put in the check in 2025, but the check format. And as I've said before, I've looked at kind of the algorithms that they're using, and I've worked out pretty much what words are going to be in there and what sounds will be in the check. So I've kind of raced through that. It was quite quick. Thank you for attending. I will put the video on the website, so again, you will be able to watch that. I'm just